Uh, Thanks for that, Mel. What I will be sharing with you this evening are some ideas and insights on how you can improve staff engagement and staff motivation. And why do we want to improve those things? What I'll share with you is the evidence that shows that there's a strong correlation between higher levels of engagement and motivation and organizational performance, business performance, financial results. Before we dive in, just a couple of pointers on how you might get the most out of this evening's session. Firstly, you might not agree with everything that I say, or you might in fact think I'm wrong on some of those things. If you can let those things go, let them pass you by, just listen out for the things that you believe will be most helpful to you and to your business, to your organization. And secondly, you may make plenty of notes and have a list of potential actions. What I'd encourage you to do is at the end of the session is to think about one thing, just one thing that you can do that's going to make a difference. Something ideally that you could do tomorrow and you feel excited by it and you think this is definitely going to help. So actually take the action, get it in place, start to see the beneficial results, and then you can always come back to your notes, to your list of potential actions and pick a second thing. So where I'd like to start is just to say something about managing and leading. We tend to think of those two things as two separate things. We have managers and we have leaders, and they are different people. There is, in fact, a big crossover between managing and leading, and most people who are looking after a team of people need to do both. And if you run your own business, you certainly need to be doing both. And I'd like to introduce a third element that, particularly in today's workplace, we need to learn how to coach as well, to be coaches. And just to sort of flesh out what those three things are, managing is about it's about producing specific results through processes. It's about creating and implementing processes. And you'll find that people will support a process if it helps them succeed, helps them to do their role better. Leading's much more about creating an environment that encourages people to achieve a common goal that aligns with your overall organizational goals. And again, people will support an organization that they help create. So leading is looking at the whole organization, the big picture. Managing is looking at a specific team that you may be responsible for. Coaching is about focusing on an individual and helping that individual achieve a specific goal. Again, another goal that aligns with your organizational goals, or to improve their performance. And that's done by providing guidance, support, and feedback. And you'll find that people achieve more when they're supported to find their own solutions. In essence, none of us really want a boss, but we do want a coach, someone who's going to help us achieve. So I've just got a few helpful words that just highlight the differences between what leading is and what managing is. Quite a long list. Yeah, leading, very much looking out there, seeing how the world is changing. Perhaps it's the regularity. Oh. Anyway, we'll forget that little bit, Jill. Don't worry about that. So two quite long lists. Leading, very much looking outwards, seeing how the world is changing, seeing how we fit into it, how we might need to adapt our strategy, about coming back with that modified strategy and having to win hearts and minds, realigning people to the way that we're going. managing much more short term into the detail. Actually, it's about performance, it's about effectiveness, it's about efficiency. And we need both those things. And they're two quite long lists. What I would say is that, again, you don't have to be doing this all on day one. But this is in the absence of a job description for what your role is as the owner or the general manager or the managing director, it's good to just have sight of this, almost like this is what's important at the moment. We do need a new strategy. I need to be focusing on that. I do need to be thinking about how my people are performing. So you can pick one or two things to be focusing on, but it's a good list to have to hand. And then coaching, if we just look at coaching. So this is about looking at the individual now, and it's about helping them set their own objectives within the context of what the organization is trying to achieve. So it's about asking questions, particularly challenging questions. And once they've settled on, agreed on, they're excited by a particular goal or objective, it's helping them think through the thought processes. What action steps are going to take you in the direction of that objective? And then outside of that, it's as they actually get on and start doing those things, providing some regular feedback in terms of how they're performing. And it's supporting them, it's being there to bounce ideas together, and importantly as well, holding them to account. So it's not about being super nice, it's about being a really good friend, if you like, someone who wants the best for us, but is going to tell us how it is, and they're going to hold us to those commitments that we make. So let's just now dive into motivation, or motivation and demotivation. And nice little cartoon, a little bit tongue-in-cheek. I mean, do carrots and sticks work, or is that a little bit old school? Well, the truth is that carrots and sticks do work. The thing about them is that the carrots keep having to get bigger and the sticks keep having to get sharper. And the other thing is, take away the carrots, take away the sticks, and people's behavior tends to drift back to what it was previously. So what it does create is movement. And what we're going to talk about is motivation. And there is a difference between the two. And the work really, certainly in terms of business management, was started by Frederick Herzberg back in the 50s and 60s. And he did a lot of studies in the workplace on motivation and demotivation. So a lot of empirical research, good solid data, good evidence. And since then, it's been built on. And what we'll look at this evening hasn't really changed much over those years. It's changed by degrees. So what motivates people hasn't changed. So what I'm going to share with you now are 16 factors that can influence somebody's motivation. And we're just going to, a little bit of audience participation. We're just going to run a bit of a quiz. And for those 16, we've given you all 3 votes for what you believe are the 3 factors that will impact somebody's motivation positively the most. We've split it into 2 questions. There's a limitation on Zoom's ability to give us multiple choice answers. It's limited to 10. So we split it into 2 8s. You get 3 votes. So all those 3 might go into block 1 or block 2, or it might be split 2 in one and 1 in the other. So I'm sure you get the idea. So let's just, if you could run that, Mel, that'd be fantastic. Okay. Yeah, interesting. Okay, some, yeah, fairly spread, but some, a couple of strong ones. So let's just have a look at what the evidence tells us. So we're going to score these on a scale. On the left-hand side, the negative percentages are things that demotivate, and on the right-hand side, the positive ones are the things that motivate. So let's just start off with salary. because we often believe that's a strong motivator. And you'll see the green bar to the right tells us that salary can be, when we get it right, a motivator. If we get it wrong, then it's a demotivator. But neither of those are strong. We'll see in a minute about when the other things come up, where salary sits in terms of its ability to motivate or demotivate. The biggest demotivator is policy and administration, bureaucracy. So what's that telling us is that if we get it wrong, if we burden people with onerous policies and too much administration, and that's not their main role, it will strongly demotivate them. But if we get it right and they're super, super good, then its ability to motivate people is limited, roundabout on this scale, 5%. A couple of other things related that will demotivate people if they're not right. Firstly, the quality of supervision. So if somebody is supervised poorly, that will demotivate them. Coupled with if they have a bad relationship with their supervisor as well, then that's a double whammy. And it's a fact that most people, if they leave an organization, they don't leave the organization, they don't leave the person at the head of that organization, they leave their supervisor, their manager, the person that they report to. So that's, I think, an important insight to take away. Work conditions fill the gap. So I guess often we think that if people were working in super conditions with great lighting and plants and lovely comfy furniture, we should have those things, but recognize that they're not a strong motivator. If they're poor, they'll demotivate people, but certainly nowhere near as much as poor at policy and administration. So what is it that motivates people most? Well, the most powerful factor is achievement. People having a sense of achievement, having an objective and achieving that. I heard a really powerful one-liner in a debate, a discussion on the radio the other day, talking about youngsters and self-esteem and why it's low and how you build it up. And one of the experts on that, so I can't remember their name, but in essence said that self-esteem is built by achieving difficult things. So difficult things just means for an individual something that is a little bit challenging, a little bit out of their comfort zone, something that they think, not sure whether I can do that or not. When we give the people those sorts of things to do and they achieve it, that is what builds self-esteem. And the evidence from decades of research now that says that achievement, that sense of achievement, that opportunity to achieve something is a very powerful motivator. If it's absent, it doesn't have a demotivating effect particularly. So the red bar is quite small, but the potential to motivate is very high. So again, we need to think through how we make a job. We turn it into something where people are achieving things, and we're conscious that we need to keep stretching them a little bit. And that is good for people. It's a fallacy that people want an easy life. They might say that, they might think that, and they might even shy away from something that's challenging. But after the event, they will feel so much better for it, and they will have built their confidence, their esteem, their motivation will have increased. Secondly, we've got recognition. So by all means, annual awards and the top person who's done this, and you're on stage. But really what we're talking about here is far more day in, day out. So people just doing their job well and recognizing that. And we'll come on to this. There's a big crossover between motivation and engagement. But just seeing people doing something well and just commenting on it. And it has to be sincere, it has to be specific, and it has to be proportionate. So it might you might overhear one of your team members speaking to a parent, and they just handled the conversation really well. And afterwards, when the parents left, you might just say, I just overheard your conversation. Just wanted to say, I think you handled that really, really well. I like the way that you accepted the criticism they made, the way that you dealt with it, explained it, and they went away very happy. Well done. So just something very simple like that. And you'll find on a personal level as well, it's very rewarding to be able to share things like that. And I promise you, it's so, so powerful as well to the individual. We tend to get more of what we focus on. So become good at spotting people doing things well, point it out to them, be specific, and that will just grow. The work itself's important, and I guess this comes two things, sort of recruitment and deployment, but particularly recruitment. Horses for courses, or round pegs in round holes, whatever sort of little aphorism you'd want to use. But it's important that the job that needs doing is matched with someone with those talents, those strengths, those skills, and they are going to enjoy that work, and they're doing plenty of it. I guess that in some ways for me, this ties back as well into policy and administration. So we all have to do a little bit of that, but we want to aim that, say, 75, 80, 85% of somebody's role is the work that they've been employed to do, that they're suited to do, that they love doing, and the bits they don't love doing is minimized. Next one, advancement. So a sense of making progress, taking on more responsibility. And in a small organization, this can be a little bit of a challenge. So we have to be a little bit of imaginative. And one important point to point out is to think about, traditionally, often people are very good at something technical, a frontline role, say, and they do really well at it, and they need to get on, and they want to earn more money, and we move them out of that technical area and put them in a management role. And often the management role and the technical role are just two different things, and they don't necessarily flourish in there, but they want to stay there, they want to do well, because the status, the extra salary is attractive. They don't want to feel that they're going backwards, and they perhaps get to average, but they never really shine and flourish. So we need to think about keeping people where that's what they want to do, but building into the structure the opportunity to progress and to earn more money as well. So there's no reason why somebody on a frontline role shouldn't actually get paid more than a manager. So there can be an overlap in salaries. So again, we just need to be a little bit creative and imaginative, and make sure that we're playing to people's strengths. I should say as well, the other thing about advancement, sometimes an organization just can't provide the next step for somebody, and they should move on. They want something more challenging with more responsibility. And if we can't provide that, then they should perhaps go somewhere else with our blessing and on good terms as well, knowing that they will flourish somewhere else. And responsibility, I guess we commonly think that people don't want responsibility and shy away from it. But the truth is that when people do take on responsibility, they do flourish. They are motivated. So that has to be appropriate. People have to be supported. They have to have the right training. But the truth is that we do become more motivated. We flourish when we do step out and take on more responsibility. And growth as well. So I think you'll see how those things weave together. There's some commonality. There's a lot of green on the right-hand side. and not much red on the left-hand side. So in the absence of those things, people aren't necessarily demotivated, but they do represent a big opportunity. Just to fill in the bits at the bottom, there's a block of things there that not strong motivators or demotivators. Perhaps relationship with peers is it's not far behind salary. Interestingly, status and security are pretty low. So again, people, I guess there's a belief that people want security. It gets a lot of airtime, but the evidence suggests that it's not strong when it comes to motivation. So a few takeouts. So let's just look at those. So motivation is an internal job. So this is the difference between carrots and sticks, creating momentum, which is an external job, which disappears and stops if we take the carrots and sticks away. Motivation is something, it comes from inside of us. And what we do is we can create an environment that increases the chances that people will behave in a certain way. Everything has the ability to motivate and demotivate. There really is no neutral. And those strong motivators, lots of green bars to the right, are different to strong demotivators. Salary can be a motivator, but not a strong one. We should be aspiring as good organizations, profitable organizations, to be paying our people decently. When I'm working with my clients, our aim is that we can pay our people top quartile in the sector, so that salary never becomes an issue, and we can focus on those more important motivators, those more important things that we're all here to do. Recognize that policies, procedures, administration are potential demotivators. So let's look at those, making those light touch if we can. Policies that support people to do their role, so they're positive rather than things that work against people. Achievement and recognition can be strong motivators. So again, we need to think about that. The recognition one is potentially slightly easier to do. That is something we can start doing tomorrow if we're not, or doing more of it tomorrow. And I guess one of the key things is if we can encourage people to do it for each other. That is a happy day in an organization when one colleague can say to another colleague, I really loved the way you spoke to that parent. That was really good. You know what, I'm going to do it like that in future. Or, whatever it might be. So that would be a really good day. But the place to start is with yourselves and your direct reports and other people in the organization. So it just becomes culturally just something that you do. It's a day in, day out activity. And achievement, that probably takes a little bit more imagination. It takes a little bit of that coaching to sit down with people and help them decide on some particular objectives. So yeah. So that came through a little bit quickly. So the other piece we're going to look at this evening is what engages people. And as we go through this, you will see that there is a crossover between the two things. And so what I'm going to share now is based on the work of the Gallup organization, who've been looking at employee engagement for over 70 years now. And they've looked at millions of business units. They've questioned millions of individuals. So they've got a huge wealth of data. And what they've done, what Gallup have done, is over the years, they've honed down and refined a set of questions that allows organizations to determine their level of employee organization engagement. And again, just why are we doing this? Well, Gallup have some fantastic evidence to indicate why engagement is so important. So firstly, they found that where engagement levels have gone from low to high, absence has fallen by over 80% across those organizations. Employee turnover, anywhere between 10% and 43%, depending on the sort of sectors. Some sectors, there's very high churn naturally of people. Other sectors, there isn't. But anyway, the trend is to reduce employee turnover. Accidents down by almost 2/3. Well-being up by 2/3, very topical. Customer service, customer loyalty up by 10%. Productivity improved by almost 20%, and profitability up by almost a quarter. And the other thing to say about the engagement surveys that Gallup have that Gallup use is that it's what's called a headlight measure. So most of our measures in business are measures that look backwards. So once a month, if we look at our previous month's performance, we're looking back, and if it hasn't been a good month, it's very difficult for us to do anything about that. It's been and gone. Whereas engagement is a headlight measure. So if we measure engagement today and it's low, then or it's fallen, it's an indicator that over the next 12 months, our financial performance will deteriorate. Similarly, if there's an improvement in engagement, it's a good sign that our performance, our financial performance, our business performance is going to improve over the coming months and years. So it's a great indicator. So if engagement levels are low today, then it allows us tomorrow to start doing something about that. Whereas many other measures are after the fact. So it's very powerful, and it's very simple as well. So it's literally 12 statements that give initially a line in the sand, but something, a measure and an agenda as well. So as we go through and you read the questions, you'll see that it's almost, again, a little bit like that list of leading and managing activities. The questions give us an agenda to work to, and that we can start on tomorrow. They're organized in a hierarchy. So questions 1 and 2 are talking about an employee's, a team member's basic needs. There's a batch of 4 on the second level, which talks about how those individuals then contribute on a personal level. Another 4 then in terms of how they work with colleagues, their teamwork, and the final 2 on their personal growth. And the way that it's far more important for your team to be able to answer positively questions 1 and 2 rather than 11 and 12. So if we're scoring low on 1 and 2 and high on 11 and 12, 11 and 12 don't really matter if 1 and 2 are low. So we need to get 1 and 2 right first before we move to 3, 4, 5, and 6. So let's run through those 12 statements. The first one, I know what is expected of me at work. And I guess that our initial reaction would be, well, yes, everybody does know what's expected of them at work. But the truth is that in the thousands of surveys that Gallup have done, only 50%, 1 in 2, can answer this very positively. And I think we often assume that people know what we want them to do, but the reality is they don't. And it's critical to have that clarity because that's what brings better performance. It allows people to focus on the right things. Sometimes we give someone a job description. It's written in business speak, so it's not really very understandable. We give it them on day 1 and we never revisit that. So we need to think through. I mean, the first thing to do is just ask people the question. So what's expected of you in this role? Why are you on the payroll? Just in your own words, explain that to me. So that is a very interesting question to ask to see what comes back. So again, when somebody's joining an organization, getting them to feedback after, say, 24 hours, what they understand about the role, what a good role looks like, is important. And things change. So as a minimum, a job role should be, the expectations of that role should be looked at once every 12 months. And sometimes they need to be revisited more frequently than that. It's a dynamic document, so we should, treat it accordingly. It's not cast in stone. It's not contractual. And just tying back to that sense of achievement as well, it's important here. This is where we can put some meaningful objectives. Second question statement is, I have the materials and equipment I need to do my job right. Again, it might seem fairly basic. It's as simple as going to speak to people, just to say, have you got everything you need to do your job well? And seeing what they say to you. It's as simple as that. And where we can, just making sure that people can do that. The absence, if things aren't quite right, it can be, again, the strong evidence that it just makes people, it creates a stressful situation. Moving up to that second level, question 3, at work, I have the opportunity to do what I do best every day. So this is very much about learning about people's strengths. Very important at the recruitment stage that we're at matching up people to roles, that the strengths and skills that they have actually match what's required for the role. And 80% of a role needs to be ideally what somebody is good at, what they enjoy doing, where they'll flourish. And we minimize the bits, and we all have parts of our roles that we don't necessarily enjoy, but let's aim that the bulk of them are things that we are good at and we do enjoy. In the past 7 days, I have received recognition or praise for doing good work. This ties right back into the motivational work as well. Recognition is really key. On this one, it's in the last 7 days. So this is based on evidence. This is through Gallup looking at things over a long period of time, and that frequency, that regularity of at least weekly feedback is important. And I think this is, for me, an area that's very easy to have some sort of quick wins on, if you like. We tend to, in many organizations, the only time we speak to people is when they do something wrong, or they've made a mistake. As I say, we get what we focus on. So even if somebody is only doing 1 out of 5 things correctly, if you focus in and give them positive feedback on that 1 out of 5, there's a chance the 1 out of 5 becomes 2 out of 5, becomes 3 out of 5. My supervisor or someone at work seems to care about me as a person. In that sort of environment, people tend to be a lot more forgiving. They give us the benefit of the doubt when things don't go quite right. It creates trusting workplaces. So again, that's we need to think about what a caring about a person. Oh, waffling now. A similar, number 6, there is someone at work who cares about my development. So caring about somebody as a whole person, and then caring about how you're growing. So if we think about somebody in the right role, how we take their skills and we hone and enhance and add to those skills as well, and we're giving them objectives that are going to stretch them, that will challenge them a little bit and allow them to grow and develop. At work, my opinion seems to count. Again, asking the questions. Often, particularly in small businesses, we've grown them through being very hands-on, being very directing and instructing, and there's a place for that. Once we become established, making sure that we're asking the questions and listening to the answers and as much as possible allowing those answers to be the actions that we take, and for those people to be involved in the implementation is very powerful. And Gallup's research is telling us that where people answer this question positively, it really does improve the environment and creates the mission or purpose of my company makes me feel my job is important. I'd say this one has certainly over the last few years with sort of younger workforce, the workforce coming in now. This is far more important to people. The evidence says it's always been important. I would say it's even more important now. And this isn't necessarily changing what we do, but it's thinking about how we communicate that, how we tie an individual's role into the overall organizational purpose and how that purpose serves our local community. Yes, we're a business, so it's incumbent on us to make sure that we're profitable and those profits are growing and the business is sustainable. To do anything otherwise is a sin in my book. But it is important that we are serving a real need. So as I say, it's thinking through that and communicating that. And again, asking people how their job fits into the overall purpose of the organization and just seeing what people say. And sometimes we just need to help people to see what they're doing and how it ties in. Number 9, my associates or fellow employees are committed to doing quality work. So higher standards. This tells us something about how much respect people have for each other. And I haven't got anything else to say about that at the moment. I'm running out of things to say. Number 10, I have a best friend at work. So it's a fact that we all strive for higher social well-being. We're social creatures. We want to be part of a tribe. And in essence, the more best friend relationships there are at work, the better the working environment. And down the line, the better performing the organization is, the more sustainable it becomes. I guess the question to ask on this one is, how can I have an organization with more best friend relationships? So again, there isn't necessarily a simple answer, and it's probably multifaceted, but it's something to think about. These 10 statements are really powerful, a powerful checklist to keep going back to and working on. And then 11 and 12. So important, but less important than the other first 10. So in the last 6 months, someone at work has talked to me about my progress. So what's been going well in the past? What have we learned from that? How can we get more of that? There shouldn't be any surprises here. So if we're feeding back on a regular basis at this stage, there's shouldn't be any new news, but most of the conversation is about the future and how someone can grow and progress. And similarly, number 12, in the last 12 months, I've had opportunities at work to learn and grow. And if we think back to the motivation and achievement, it's about how we can create relevant situations as part of somebody's role to learn and to grow. This, again, very powerful when your organization becomes a learning and growing organization, and very exciting and very enjoyable as well. Just makes work, just a more exciting place to go to every day, to have a culture like that. So the survey, this is the survey I would run with a client. It's great because it's very simple to do. It doesn't take long. It's confidential, and it gives us a line in the sand. And what it also does is that when we share the results with the team, it creates a continuous improvement agenda. So the follow-up from the survey isn't that it falls on the owner to do lots of things. It allows us to engage the team to talk about what they want to work on and what they will improve. So people start getting involved, they start taking responsibility, and it's quite wonderful, really, to see people do that. So our role as the owner, or mine as a facilitator, would be allow them to pick one or two things that are quite achievable, that don't take lots of resource necessarily, and they start progressing and working towards this. And then 12 months later to repeat the survey so we can see the progress that has been made. Very, very powerful. So there are 12 statements, and should say very happy to share all the slides, so don't feel you have to write everything down. Again, key drivers for engagement: meaningful work linked to a meaningful organizational purpose. Key at the recruitment stage: focus on what someone is good at and enjoys doing. I would use a footballing analogy that, if you're employed as a right winger and your manager's playing you at left midfield or even left back, then you might do okay because you're a good footballer, but you're not going to enjoy it, you're not going to thrive, you're not going to flourish. A little bit of an extreme example, but it demonstrates the importance of focusing on strengths. A positive relationship with a caring manager. Ongoing constructive conversations. And giving people opportunities to achieve, to learn, to grow. So I think you'll see that the engagement and motivation, there's a big crossover, and there's some specifics here. We now know what we should be focusing on, and that we know with confidence, because a lot of evidence over a long time tells us that if we do focus on those things and we do improve them, and then our performance will improve as well. One final point, and that's for this evening's session to have been any value, we have to actually do something with it. So I'd encourage you to scan through your notes and to decide at some point this evening or tomorrow morning, what's the one thing you're going to do? What's the one thing you're going to take away and implement that you believe will make a difference to the business? And if anybody, if you drop me a line, very happy to share the slides with you. If you want to talk a little bit more about what we've discussed this evening and team engagement, team motivation, just drop me a line, and we'll happy to jump on the call for 20 minutes, half an hour. What we've been talking about and lots more. I have a book as well, so you can buy it from Amazon. Just simply scan the QR code. So yeah, that's it. How long was that? Can't tell. More. Stop recording.